And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, planet.
Water power supply! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. It's orange!
R45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting with the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello everyone. We're looking at a live view from Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where a Falcon 9 is about ready to launch a Starlink 6-79 mission in just under an hour from now. My name is Marty and I'm your host for tonight. It's an early morning where I am, so I'm having a rocket launch for breakfast, I suppose. But I'll be joined by some people from the field. And among them is Dee Wise, who will be bringing live views from today's launch. Dee, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty well. You know, it is a really nice temperature out. You can see, or well, rather, you can't see all the rocket right now because it is rather foggy tonight. But we are here and ready for a launch in just under an hour, and I cannot wait.
Well, let's hope the fog stays away for this launch. And also joining us from the field is Max Evans, who will also be bringing us some live views. Max, how are you?
Good morning, everyone. It is actually morning now because it is after midnight and almost 2 a.m. here on the Space Coast of Florida. So, yes, Marty, it is an early morning for you, but it is for us as well. So, typical for these late night Starlinks, but you know what? It is what it is, and we're always happy to be here.
Amazing. So, as I said, this is a Starlink mission. On top of this Falcon 9 are 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites ready to be launched. Oh, I just see popping up on the screen. We've also got our producer, Carson, pulling the strings, pushing the levers, or the other way around, making sure that everything works for this stream. But as I said, this is a Starlink mission. Dee, can you tell us anything about this mission?
Yeah, so what can you say? It's not your ordinary Starlink. So to start off, of course, like you said, we've got 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites being launched into orbit, and tonight's launch is going out of Slick 40. They're going on a southeast trajectory launch, as these Group 6 missions we've seen are used to. And tonight, supporting the mission is B-1090, and that is B-1090's 9th flight.
Amazing. So, for the people watching the show, throughout this show, we'll be answering some of your questions. And to get the questions to us, the best thing to do is to add NASA Spaceflight in chat or at NSF for short. And that way, we know what questions to answer. But yeah, as the people from the field already said, it's a bit foggy out there. But that should not always be a concern for launch. But what might be a concern is the weather. Max, do you have any information on the weather for tonight's launch?
Well, as far as the Mark 1 eyeballs are concerned, as Dee was saying earlier, there's not much really to be worried about. We have plenty of clear skies above us, and the scars are glistening and as vibrant as ever, and the wind is basically stagnant, and there is basically it is essentially as quiet a night at the spaceport that never sleeps as can possibly be. The only visual exception to that is as you can probably see on your screen, we can only see about the top third of Falcon 9 this evening, or this morning, I should say, because there is a dense layer of fog over much of the grounds here, both at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and the Kennedy Space Center alike. Similar to yesterday, although not quite as strong, at least as of yet. But I don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to mention it again. But in terms of the official forecast from the 45th Weather Squadron based at the Patrick Space Force Base, there is less than a 5% chance of a weather-related violation, which in all things considered is as good as forecasts can really get, with there being no primary concerns. And when it comes to the additional risk criteria as well, meaning the upper level wind shear, booster recovery weather, and solar activity, those are also rated as low as they can possibly be as well. So Falcon 9 could not be asking for any better weather to get off of the ground this morning.
So the fog is no issue. That is great to hear. But it might affect our views. Hopefully it won't, though. Fingers crossed. But speaking about views, I already see a question coming up in the queue from the French taunter. Are Falcon 9 launches any less impressive for you as photographers after Starship or New Glenn? And as someone who has never seen any of the other launches, I cannot really answer this question, but I believe I've got two experts in the field.
I mean, it's really tough to have any sort of real comparison to Starship, and I mean that both from a sense of or from experience, but also just by the sheer comparison from from the actual imagery and numbers as well. Nothing really compares to Starship, even New Glenn, which we saw just over 1 week ago now, which is crazy because time flies, I guess, when you're having fun. But uh, I think we are lucky enough to be at the KSC press site where we are now to have a vantage point of Slick 40 very, very often. And we are about 4.5, almost 5 miles away from the launch pad, which isn't exactly super close, but also we aren't super far away either. Certainly, when there's a launch from LC-39A like there was yesterday, the view is a lot better because we're just a little bit closer and our cameras are a lot happier being pointed in that direction. But I don't think Falcon 9 it's obviously not as impressive to watch, whether it be with your naked eye or with a camera in front of you as well. But I guess that obviously depends on how close you're watching as well. Like if you watch Falcon 9 from like 1 mile away, which I think is possible with the BDA or blast danger area being about 1 mile around the pad, usually on average. It is theoretically possible for someone to watch from there, although we likely don't want you to do that. I It's all a matter of perspective and what you have seen before, but just between comparing Starship and Falcon 9, Starship is basically in a league of its own.
Max, I have to say, that was a lot of really eloquent words and really kind words to say, yeah, Falcon 9s are a bit less impressive. It's hard to compare to such massive and impressive rockets as Starship and New Glenn. And that's not to say every single launch is not still exciting, because they are. We wouldn't be here if people weren't interested. If we weren't interested, we wouldn't be here. But it's hard to follow Starship or New Glenn, let's be real.
I've got to say, after having seen so many different launches from the internet, I've never seen one live, but through the internet, I've seen many different launches, and sometimes these Falcon 9s, they get a bit like the usual stuff. But on the other hand, I still remember the days when we were looking forward to a Falcon 9 mission later in the month. So those were amazing. So why wouldn't Falcon 9 missions of today be amazing too? Or at least that's how I feel about it.
And you're totally right. Like, these missions are incredible. The fact that we can even the fact that we can downplay a launch at all is super impressive because the Space Coast has been just continuing to accelerate. Uh, Max was out here last night for the 100th launch of the year from the Space Coast. This will be the 101st launch. So, I mean, that alone is so exciting, and it's a great time to be in space.
Absolutely. And with so many launches to cover, the people in the chat seem to be wondering, Dee, do you ever get a chance to sleep?
There have been plenty of times when Max and myself will have trouble finding times to sleep. I think the last week with New Glenn was certainly a challenge in that regard. But with that said, there are still times between launches where 200 nearing 300 days into the year, something like that, and we're at 100 launches here. So between those, there is time to sleep most of the time. There are just a few periods when they get a bit too busy to have a time to rest.
To be completely honest, I still don't know if I've recovered from the just, I guess, abysmal black hole almost of a lack of sleep from the first launch of New Glenn way back in January. That was probably one of the most exhausting periods of time I can recall in recent memory, because that also coincided with Starship Flight 7, which was the first flight of version 2, which D and I, for a period of time, were thinking about doing both if enough time to travel in between them. And of course, obviously, it didn't work out that way. But I still feel like I haven't recovered from that, and before we know it, that'll already be a year ago, and we're already almost at 11 months already, which is crazy to say. But yeah, we do call this place the spaceport that never sleeps, and that is because there is constant activity happening 24/7, just like these Falcon 9 and Starlink missions happening between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, as we so lovingly call them, these late night Starlinks. But yes, we sleep when we can.
Absolutely. So you said it's the spaceport that never sleeps, and someone very familiar in chat is asking, uh, Kevin Michael Reed, well, someone very familiar in chat, is asking, well, that's New York's motto. So when Starship will be flying from New York, won't it be the spaceport that never sleeps? And I think that would be correct. But Starship flying from New York, that might be still quite a way into the future, Kevin.
Point to point, fly Starbase to New York, New York, down here to the Cape. Let's do it, and then we can truly have many a spaceport that never sleep.
And one of the things that I'm interested about as well here, between all these launches, yeah, you can't just like hop on stream, live stream these launches, and then go to sleep or something, but because you have to travel out there, set up the equipment and all that stuff. So 9-8 Central here in chat is asking, how long does it take you to set up the field equipment, and has there at any point been a time you omit equipment because there's just not enough time to set it up?
I think we tend to go on the lighter side of in terms of live cameras that we set up for these late night Starlink missions, because even though our view over to Slick 40 normally isn't bad, um, it does require a bit of a hike to get all the way across the press site lawn here, because we are essentially at the very edge of the property over here, because we have the turn basin water off to our left, and then there is a creek and then a sort of like pseudo forest off to our right. So we are on the edge of where we can go here, but we have to pretty much come here if we want to get the best view of Slick 40 that we possibly can. So normally for Starlinks, we can do it in anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes at the longest, I think. Um, and that's normally just for Slick 40. For LC 39A, that can take us anywhere from honestly 15 minutes to a half hour because we can go right in front of the hut and the view is right there. But if we want to start deploying assets like the robo head and we want to have probably anywhere from 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 live cameras out, that can take upwards of hours. But I think D can speak better to that.
Yeah, it's hugely variable. So you'll see tonight, you're looking currently at the behind the scenes camera behind us, and then Max and I also each have a tracking camera for tonight. And so normally we'll try to be here an hour before live stream at the absolute latest if we're doing a light setup like this. And like you said, for New Glenn, stuff like that, we are setting up hours beforehand, getting every single camera we possibly can, because in addition to just the general, okay, setting up the cameras, lugging the gear out to our viewing area is not always a short period of time, whether that is the end of the press site or the end of the pier at Jetty Park. That can take a while, and sometimes we really like bringing in the extra views. Sorry, the temperature just changed dramatically. This slow moving air, there are like pockets of warm air from probably over the water. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so hugely variable from like hour before live stream to many a hour before live stream. But there are certainly times we omit equipment. Like if there were not times we would omit equipment, then every single Starlink would be the same setup as a Starship. And that's honestly just not practical. We want to provide the views we can and make sure we create a quality stream for all of you, but we can't be out here 5 hours before every single Starlink, and then the hours after of tearing everything down, getting all the batteries back and charging again. Like, there has to be a trade-off there, and so normally, like, 2 cameras will be the absolute minimum deployed for a launch, really, and when we can provide more than that, we try to.
All right. And I see we've got a super chat coming in from Mr. Fluffy, who said, "Huh, looks like Vandenberg, copying the best coast." So Vandenberg, of course, known for its foggy weather. How is it looking with the fog out there, Max?
Yeah, we often poke fun at the West Coast spaceport being the Vandenberg Space Force Base or Space Force Station or whatever it's called nowadays. I think it's space still. Because they oftentimes have the marine layer of fog wash out from the Pacific Ocean and cover the launch pad and just make the views there not so great. But that being said, us here on the east coast of Florida are not completely immune to fog, as we have seen from the past 2 days in particular, and that also includes tonight. Because our view, as you can kind of see on our cameras here, it's going back and forth between there being more fog in between us and the launch pad and the higher layers going up and down and blocking more or less the rocket. It's going back and forth. It's nowhere near West Coast levels yet, although we have had that happen maybe 2 or 3 times from what I can recall in the past, like what, almost 2 to 4 years. But we do have fog here occasionally, but it's mostly in the early morning and not, I guess, just perpetually across the entire day, because the weather here in Central Florida and especially in South Florida can change rather quickly, especially in the summertime months. So, yes, we do have fog here right now, but that we are still transitioning from our weather from summer and the weather that we normally get in winter, which tends to be a lot more stable. It's a lot cooler. We don't have to worry about rainstorms every single day between 3 and 5 p.m. Sometimes earlier. But yeah, TLDR, yes, we do have fog right now, but it is not a deal breaker. And hopefully it stays that way. But with yesterday, I had a super easy setup over in front of the hut here, And the amount of fog that was surrounding us, whether it be looking off to my left towards the VAB, looking towards LC 39A and Falcon 9, and off towards the right where Select 41 and 40 are. I've never seen that much fog just constantly surrounding all of us here in one spot. Normally, it's been isolated towards either the launch pad area or just the VAB, and not entirely around us here, especially actually on the press site. So, uh, quite a bizarre thing to see, but honestly kind of cool. But as long as the fog does not obstruct our views of the launch pad, we are normally in pretty good shape.
All right. So I hope the fog will stay away, clear up for this launch then. And if not, we'll see it when it pops its head, when the rocket pops its head above the fog layer. Looking at the time, we're at T minus 38 minutes and 48 seconds before launch. And that gives us a good indication to look at the timeline, because there's a very important point in the timeline coming up. D or Max, does any one of you want to take the countdown timeline and walk us through it?
Absolutely. So, like you said, we are getting really close to the T minus 38 minute mark. That's when the launch director will verify that they are go for propellant load. And then just shortly after that, at T minus 35 minutes, that is when they will begin loading propellant onto the rocket. That's the point that SpaceX has locked in their T0 because of the super cooled cryogenic propellants. They can't just hold around and shift it like some other rockets. So at T minus 35 minutes, they start the RP1 load for both stages and the stage 1 liquid oxygen loading. Normally, by like the T minus 30 minute mark, we would be able to see some frost on the vehicle. Given the visibility tonight, we're probably not going to have any sign of that until much, much farther into the propellant loading. But hopefully at the T minus 20 minute mark, we will be able to see that 20-minute vent as they start to cool down the infrastructure and prepare to load liquid oxygen onto the second stage as well. I assume at that point we'll have some clear visibility on the fact that, yes, they have been loading propellant. We just haven't been able to see it. Things start to speed up as they get into like the last 10 minutes of the count. They begin engine chill at T minus 7 minutes. We have strung back retract at T minus 5 minutes. And in the last minute, Falcon 9 enters startup. They have final pressurization, and we have go for launch with engine ignition at T minus 3 seconds, and then the all important liftoff at 0.
Amazing. So that is a good summary of what we're about to see in the next 36 minutes or so. Now, just as a reminder for the folks watching, if you have any questions, tag at NASA Spaceflight or at NSF in chat. We already saw some interesting questions coming in, but we also see that some people sometimes forget to tag us, which makes it a bit harder for us to see interesting questions. But Kevin managed to catch one, specifically for Max. When Blue Origin invited you for a photo op, was it really an invite or did you bribe somebody? And this question, by the way, came from 98 Central. Max.
Oh, some of the best questions we ever get are from 98 Central. So thank you for the question, but I don't know exactly what photo op you're talking about, to be honest. Maybe are you talking about from the boat? Are you talking about from Jetty Park for launch? Honestly, I'm a little bit confused. But I would presume that we're talking about the vantage point from the ocean on a boat looking west towards the rocket on the launch pad. Otherwise, we have not really been invited into the pad yet for any sort of like tour or view of the rocket before launch. So not quite sure what a photo op you are talking about, but if Blue is offering, we would be there. So yes.
And 9A Central says, when I invited you to photograph the flight-proven booster.
The roll on Thursday, I believe.
Okay. Okay, yes. So the booster was rolled out of Port Canaveral and into the Space Force Station, where it was then rolled over to the IF over at Slick 36, or I should say LC 36, for refurb operations. That was actually a media event organized by Space Launch Delta 45, which also organizes launch viewing and other opportunities for people in the media pool to, I guess, I was going to say commandeer, but that isn't the right word. To take advantage of whenever they can to help, I guess, advance the story of the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and all of the launch providers inside of it. So that was all organized through them with the eye of Blue Origin, but that was far beyond just me. There were many others in the media pool who were also there. Like it was myself, Julia, and Jerry were all there. I think Dee was still recovering from a very, very late stream from Booster 18 RIP that rolled out to Massey's just a few days ago. So yeah, and as we can see on screen here are some photos of that, and you can see some of the very, I guess, aggressive battle scars as we can see both on the strakes and on the aft module there on the landing leg covers, and somewhere they're also on the flaps and the tank surfaces as well. It was really cool to see. Up to this point, we have only ever seen super heavy boosters in Starbase that have been flight proven, and obviously we have seen more than our fair share of Falcon 9 boosters or first stage boosters that have come and gone. Obviously, the finish is a lot different because methane doesn't produce anywhere near the level of soot that a Keralox mixture does, which is what Falcon 9 uses for its 9 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. So yeah, it was really, really cool, and we cannot wait to see what Blue does else, or what else Blue does in the future, because it is quite the beast to see in person. It's not as tall as Starship or a super heavy booster in particular, but it is it is a quite a bit wider and longer than a Falcon 9 first stage as well. So it is a monster.
It absolutely is. And speaking about New Glenn, Carson asks, where is New Glenn in its flight path to Mars? Well, as you might know, the previous launch last week, or was it last week? Yeah, it was last week, launched 2 satellites to Mars. But actually, they're not really going to Mars. They're going, or at least not for now. They will be sent out to a special point in space called Lagrange Point 2. And there they will hang out for a couple of months until the flight window from Mars to Earth opens. The other way around, sorry, from Earth to Mars opens next year. The New Glenn second stage, after deploying the satellites, ignited its engine one more time to put itself on a path around the Sun, but it won't be on its way to Mars either. Anyway, that's the answer to that question. And I've got one more New Glenn question from the Angry Engineer, who's asking if New Glenn will reuse fairings and the first stage in the future like Falcon 9. What is the payload ratio between Falcon 9 and New Glenn? And if we know the numbers, what is the cost ratio between them? D, do you perhaps know anything about that?
Well, I am not going to be able to provide exact numbers. So if you actually watched the Flame Trench earlier tonight, we spent a while talking about New Glenn and the upgrades that we're going to be seeing with increased thrust and all that. And then also another version of New Glenn with 9 first stage engines and 4 second stage engines. And that one, I believe, will do 70 metric tons to low Earth orbit. And so it's an incredibly large rocket, in theory, asterisk on paper. I also don't believe we have a ton of details as for the cost. So we will wait and see how it all plays out. But speaking of how things are playing out right now, That looks like some frost. Way sooner than I thought we'd see any.
And that is amazing. So that means that we either the fog is clearing up or we're getting a better view than we were expecting. So seeing frost means that they're loading propellant onto the Falcon 9 booster. And Max, can you perhaps take us to the timeline of prop loading one more time?
Yeah, so at this point, they are well into prop load on the first stage and also RP1 load on Falcon 9 second stage. The way that the tanks are oriented on the first stage, the RP1 tank is on the bottom and the LOX tank is on the top. And from the bulkhead in between them is normally where we see the first signs of frost, at least from our perspective here at the press site, because the very bottom of the LOX tank just peaks up above the trees and shrubs we have over here, kind of in our way now, which are kind of annoying. But that is normally when we see our first visual indicators of frost, and that things are progressing towards the current T0. And obviously, the fog does seem to be receding a little bit. I don't want to say it too loudly for risk of jinxing us. But yeah, things are going really well so far, and frost is always a good sign. And because of how humid it is tonight as well, the frost is incredibly visible because all of the vapor coming off from the condensation has essentially nowhere to go but essentially straight out. So yeah, Falcon 9 is getting frosty, and that means we are currently committed to our current T0.
All right. And you mentioned the humidity in the air and in general just the weather conditions. And we know that sometimes can have an influence on the experience of a rocket launch. So Carson is asking, will or does the fog increase the sound from the rocket? D.
So it depends, for sure. The number of variables in place for affecting the sound of a launch are honestly really hard to prepare. So when it is really foggy, there's like more density in the air. And when you have a lower cloud layer, you'll have more reflections and you'll expect that to be louder. But sometimes it like reflects the sound. It's hard to predict. But I would expect this will be a loud one, and it is a humid one. I mean, Max is saying in the back channels like what 95% humid. It's basically water. We're basically in a swimming pool right now.
Sounds uncomfortable.
I mean, it would be more so if it was hot, but right now it is only about 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And hang on, let me do the quick calculations for that in Celsius. Somebody help me out here, maybe. Hang on, stand by. I got this. 17 degrees Celsius, which honestly, it feels quite lovely. Definitely sweatshirt weather. I'm currently in long sleeves, albeit not very thick ones. But it would be a lot more uncomfortable if it was above 80 degrees Fahrenheit right now, possibly into the 90s, certainly if the sun was out as well. So the air is certainly thick, but it could certainly be worse. It could always be worse.
All right. And I would now like to turn to a question that has been in the queue for quite a bit, for quite a while, from Dougal. Now that we're nearing the end of the year, how does the total numbers of launches so far compare to the beginning of the year predictions? Well, I'd like to start off by talking about SpaceX's numbers, because SpaceX actually wants to fly 170 times, or Falcon 9 170 times this year, I believe. And this launch will actually be quite a milestone because it's number 150. And at least Falcon 9 number 150. And it will be the 155th launch for SpaceX overall. But Dougal was asking for the comparison between our predictions at the beginning of the year. I personally didn't make any predictions, but D or Max, did you make any predictions, and how are they holding up?
I think I did, but I don't. There's probably a stream from very early in the year which will very clearly say what I predicted. I want to say it was around like the 140 to 150 marker. I think that's what I said. Because I heard their initial prediction of around 170 170 this year. Good grief, I can't talk. And thought that was a bit optimistic considering all of the factors that we have in play, being mostly weather, especially in the summer with the hurricanes that we sometimes get around here occasionally. But they are certainly exceeding what I had thought they would. I think it was going to be around 170 as their target at the beginning of this year, and they are currently on pace for the neighborhood of around 165 if they are able to keep up the cadence that they have for the past month and a half or so, which is honestly really impressive. I don't know what they are going to be targeting next year. I imagine the same, if not more. They might try for closer to 200 because it's SpaceX and you never know. But they have been doing really well. I think there was a period of time where I think they were on pace to be around 145 or 150. So for them to increase their cadence such that they are around 165 right now is seriously impressive.
Absolutely. And speaking about predictions, Jacob is asking when we think Starship Flight 12 might happen. Well, obviously, we've just had a bit of an incident over in Starbase, which might delay these timelines quite a bit. And we already discussed that on the Flame Trench last night. But maybe, Max, do you? I don't think we heard you on the Flame Trench last night. So, do you have any predictions?
Well, it was February. I think with in light of recent events, that is no longer going to be the case. I hope segments for Booster 19 are getting close to stacking ready. Because if that is the case, then I could honestly see like maybe very tail end of March, like green light in a full green lights to Malibu scenario. The very end of March might seem possible, but more realistically, probably going to be the April or May timeframe now, which is honestly kind of a bummer because we were really looking forward to a Starship, a brand new Starship launch to kick off the year with, kind of similar to last year, or this year, I should say, not last year. It's still the same year. Good lord. Um, but yeah, probably more in the April or May timeframe. But I could be wrong. It could be later. It could be earlier. This is SpaceX after all, and when we think they are down and out, they come back and kick everyone's tail. I think in terms of what they were going to do with the schedule in light of events. Cough cough. Ship 36. So we'll wait and see though.
It's just a scratch.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Max. SpaceX has shown to be able to come back really quickly. So we never know what they might be able to pull off this time. But the least I know is that this flight is delayed, probably quite a bit because of this incident. Going back to this launch, though, 9/8 Central is looking at the fairings and asking, do the fairings provide positive pressure to keep out the FOD, which means foreign object debris? D, do you have an answer for this?
I don't believe so, but there are certain launches, I believe, that have some more environmental control type stuff in the fairings. I'm not sure. But they're encapsulated, they're reasonably well sealed, but there are also like vents and stuff. It's complicated and it is a bit beyond me. Now, if you look at the screen right now, though, we're actually getting a good view at that T minus 20-minute vent.
Indeed. And I believe this T minus 20-minute vent marks a special point in the propellant loading process, where they will start chilling down the liquid oxygen lines that are going to the second stage, so they can start loading the that stage with liquid oxygen. And these propellants are very, very cold. Wow. I've lost the ability to speak. These propellants are very, very cold, cryogenic. They are so cold that it really shocks the materials of the infrastructure that they're running through. So to prevent any issues, SpaceX is running these propellants through the lines before putting it into the booster to precondition these lines. And a result of that process is this vent that we're looking at right now. And in just a few minutes, they will actually start loading the second stage with liquid oxygen, which should also be the point at which that vent stops and dies off. And then just as everything is loaded, the vent should come back just before launch, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you nailed it, Marty.
Cool. Let's take a look at some other questions. We already just discussed the fairings. I believe we don't know what fairings are on this mission, but if you take a look at them through the structure that is in front of them, they are obviously reused. But Honey is asking a question. Will the fairings go wee tonight or just clunk? And honestly, I don't really know what they mean with that. Perhaps it's just a scheme to get me make funny sounds on stream. But maybe... Dee, do you have any idea what this could mean?
I'm sorry, I honestly don't.
I mean, in all fairness, the whole rocket hopefully is going to go wee, and then the fairings will go clunk, and then go wee as they re-enter the atmosphere, and then get ready to be scooped out of the Atlantic Ocean. So, I think the answer to your question is yes.
Hopefully, we'll also hear the VAB go ee.
Oh,
So
dear.
that is the VAB squeal that Dee is referring to, which is something that is occurring with only certain rockets, I believe, where the sound of the VAB, the sound of the rocket interferes with the VAB or resonates with the VAB, the vehicle assembly building, which turns into an interesting sound that we call the VAB squeal. Did I explain that correctly, Max?
No, yeah, actually, you did, and it's most prominent from Falcon 9 and Slick 40 in particular, because of the angle that the rocket has at the pad compared to the VAB, in order to have those panels be shaking in the way that they normally do. And Falcon 9 is also a very bassy and very loud rocket as well, which helps to get the sound across about 5 miles of air and onto the panels of the VAB. So definitely, hopefully we should hear tonight. It is quiet enough, and the air is certainly thick enough to help the air or the sound carry across about 5 miles of air rather well. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully the mics that we have here, especially on mine, are tuned accordingly, and we can get that on stream for everyone to hear.
Amazing. And Mustang 6, the Force, is clearing up the previous question in chat. Apparently, Alex started the wee sound when the fairings separated. So
I can see that.
if I remember doing it, I might provide some sound effects during the launch, but probably not. We'll see.
Now, real quick, I just want to hop in here because I don't think it was made clear at the start of this stream today, but Marty, you've done commentary on stream before, but you have not before actually hosted a mission. And so I'm super glad to have you here hosting. And there's actually a super chat goal going on currently for 15 super chats we'll invite Marty back to host some more. So I really like having you host tonight. Chat, y'all decide. Do you want Marty back to host some more? Go vote.
Thanks, Dee. There's a first time for everything, so it's very nice to to do this tonight with you all. I see we've already got some support coming in from RC Horseman saying, I support this goal, great job. Thanks, RC. I think this is Brouwer Erik doing my, it seems like a Dutch name, so I'm trying a Dutch pronunciation on this, who says, why not? Thank you. And there's also Snotgarden gifting 5 Red Team memberships. So that will be 5 more people having access to all the amazing behind-the-scenes content that will be will publish on YouTube in the membership area every time. Excuse me. Next up,
we're getting some more support here. Thank you, everyone, for the support. We also had Mark Duffy with a super chat there. No message, but thank you for the support. And Honey 2800 saying, and I have to agree 100%. Yay, Marty, you are doing great. You got to come back. Yes, you are doing a great job hosting, and I need to be on more streams that you're hosting.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And also another super chat without a message from Brandon. Thank you so much for that support. Now I'm seeing a very interesting question coming up in chat about the fairings we were talking about just a few minutes ago. Do these fairings do a re-entry burn or a landing burn? Max?
So no, I think first and foremost, no, but they do have their own thrusters or engines of sorts on board, being the cold gas thrusters they use to help orient themselves correctly for a proper atmospheric reentry. They reenter a bit faster than the Falcon 9 first stages do because they are carried a bit farther down range after stage separation. But because they are of a much I think it's mostly due to the fact that they have a lot more surface area to actually interact with the atmosphere with, that they are able to just use their own very blunt shape to help use that and help them slow down. And then once they get to a certain velocity well within the atmosphere, they have their own parachutes to deploy as well and bring them down for a soft splashdown in either the Atlantic or the Pacific Oceans. So in a way, because they have their own guidance and control and their own thrusters, they are their own spacecraft in their own unique way, which is fascinating, but also something that you really need to do if you want to end up reusing your fairings, because they go a bit farther down range, and honestly, they go through a bit more than your first stages do in terms of flight time and also heating as well, which we have also seen from, I think it was the Viasat 3 of America's launch. That was a Falcon Heavy launching in just after Flight 1 in April of 2023. And that was the fastest a Falcon Center Core or a Falcon stage in general has traveled downrange, which means the fairings went as far as they ever have and re-entered as fast as they ever have. And SpaceX actually released some footage of this reentry, and the blue and orange plasma coming off of each side was just miraculous. It was wonderful. But TLDR, they will come down under their own parachute for a soft splashdown and recovery.
Well, thanks, Max, for that explanation. So as we're looking at the rocket, it's being filled up with that cryogenic propellant. So it's probably getting very chilly. And if it doesn't like that, it should probably go to our website, shop.nasaspaceflight.com, because we've got some amazing Christmas sweaters, holiday sweaters on our store with some great designs of Falcon 9. The design that you're seeing right in front shows a crew launch lifting off probably from Florida, and that's this design on screen right now. And on the back, it shows the return. Now, we've been discussing this internally. We don't really know what side of the country this is on. Like, some of the things could be in Florida, some of the things could be in California, as the crew returns are splashing down off the coast of California nowadays. Though I like to think of this as a bit of a summary of the past year, where we had the last crew return in Florida with Crew 9 earlier. I should say the designs are knitted into the fabric of these sweaters. And last year I got one of the old designs, which is also still for sale. And I got the Spacewalk design from the Polaris Dawn mission. And it's one of my favorite holiday sweaters. If you want them to get them in on time for the holidays, well, we cannot guarantee anything because international shipping is quite complicated. But the best time to order them, to get them in time for the holidays, is probably now.
I have to say, Marty, that was a masterful segue. You're a natural.
Thanks. I got this idea, and then I had to do this when the booster was getting chilly. So I'm very glad I got to use it. We're just over 8 minutes until Falcon 9 is hopefully ready to lift off for this mission. Dee, can you run us down the timeline of what's going to happen in the next few minutes?
Yes, so we are nearing about 8 minutes from launch, which should be near the start of engine chill. Can we bring up that timeline, Carson?
Sorry, I didn't prepare anyone for this.
Nope, that is all good. So we're less than 30 seconds away from engine chill, and we are about 2.5 minutes from strong back retract. That's when that transporter erector moves back from the rocket just a bit. Now, even though we have 7 minutes left in the count, the LOX load will complete loading on the first stage in less than 4 minutes and less than 5 minutes until second stage load is complete. And then we're getting really close to launch. In 6 minutes from now, we'll be just a minute away from launch. Falcon 9 will enter startup. Final tank pressurization will take place. And at 45 seconds to launch, that's when we'll have the launch director verify that we are, in fact, go.
Amazing. Thank you. So let's just hit a few more support messages. The French taunter is saying, "Cheers, Marty. Cheers. And great job to everyone, as always," and I agree. And Apocalypse Cow is still trying to add to the goal, saying, "Goal, Marty." Smiley face, thanks. It's kind of weird to read compliments for yourself, but I guess that's part of the job.
I feel that.
So, Max and Dee, I know you've got to head off soon to prepare for tracking the rocket as it goes up. But maybe one more quick question. Sorry, I'm okay. I'm getting confused for just a second. Yeah, okay. That was actually the question I was looking for. That's on screen right now. Are there any good filters to photograph or shoot a night launch? Is a UV filter necessary?
So it really depends, depending on like if you're shooting certain types of film, then I would say maybe yeah, you definitely need a UV filter. If you want to have a clear filter to protect your lens, that is an option. But for the most part, for night launches, you don't really need any sort of like ND filter, especially. Um, Now, with that being said, if you are particularly close and going for something like a streak shot, then you would really want to have a pretty strong ND on there because for a streak shot, you're basically leaving. There we go, strong back retract. With a streak shot, you're basically leaving your camera detecting light for minutes at a time. Sometimes you'll go like 8 minutes. And with how bright Falcon 9 and rockets are in general, it's very easy for that to blow out your image and then you just have a white image instead. So you can normally adjust for that by dropping down your aperture. But if you want to have the creative control, you can drop an ND filter on there instead, keep your aperture a bit wider open, and sort of control the depth of field and control your focus plane a bit more. Now we're getting pretty close to launch at we're at nearing 3.5 minutes. Marty, I think I have to head out now. Max is working on his cameras at the moment, so I'll see you on the other side.
Okay, thanks for that, D. I'll see you on the other side, and please get your camera ready for liftoff. I'll be holding the fort in the meantime. We've already got the views from SpaceX right now, and we just heard some ComsNet talk from SpaceX as well, that the strong back retract has started. So yeah, just if you don't know, the strong back is the vertical structure holding up the rocket during its countdown ahead of launch. And LOX load is complete on the first stage now. So yeah, that strong back, like I said, is holding up the rocket. It's a vertical structure, and just before launch, it first moves away a bit, and then in the final seconds before launch, it like goes all the way down, all the way out of the way to protect itself from the fire of liftoff. But that's just one thing in these final few minutes. In just over a minute from now, actually, let's wait for the next call out first, which should be that stage 2 LOX load is complete. And I haven't heard that yet, but it's probably coming up soon.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
There we go. So that means that Falcon 9 is getting closer and closer to liftoff. And in just 42 seconds from now, Falcon 9 will enter what is called startup. That is the moment when the onboard computers on the rocket will take over control of the countdown so that it can get itself ready for liftoff. Then in about 15 seconds after that, I didn't catch that call out, but in just 15 seconds after Falcon 9 going in startup, the launch director will verify go for launch. And from that point on, we should just count down and wait for the engines to ignite and for Falcon 9 to lift off. And the close out, the call out I missed was ground gas closeout.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
That's Falcon 9 in startup. So hopefully we will be getting that go for launch very, very soon.
The launch director is go for launch.
Go for launch. That's what we like to hear. So that means that in just a few seconds, in half a minute from now, the rocket will lift off from the pad. And during the countdown, in the final few seconds, you'll see the water deluge system turn on. Well, I'm not sure if we'll see it in view because of the fog today, but we might. And you might also see a green flash from the engines lighting up. So now 5 seconds. that's ignition and liftoff of Falcon 9 on Starlink 6-79. I'll stay quiet for a bit so we can hear the sounds of this launch. What an amazing view of this launch. We just saw that amazing smoke ring, I think it was. I think that is one of the effects of the Falcon 9 getting supersonic, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, we also heard the amazing sounds and that VAB squeal that we talked about earlier, which is are the panels on the vertical assembly building resonating with the sounds of the launch, which gives some amazing audio. Excuse me. In just a few seconds, the engines on the first stage will cut off, and after that, stages will separate, and the second stage should continue its journey. So just looking at the views with the colors of that's engine shot down on the first stage. So we should have stage separation now. And that is engine ignition on the second stage. And now we're getting the stage separation views from SpaceX as well. So in just a few seconds, the fairings should separate from the rocket, exposing the stack of Starlink satellites to the environment of space. I'm not sure if we will be getting views on that. Those are some amazing views of the rocket making its way into space. In the meantime, that's the fairing separating. So these 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites are now exposed to the vacuum and environment of space as they're making their way up into orbit. On the left-hand side, we're seeing the views from the first stage, which is making its way down to be recovered on the landing by landing on the deck of a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is staged in the Atlantic, just beyond the Bahamas. And as this vehicle comes down in just a few minutes from now at approximately 6 minutes and 9 seconds into flight, the first stage should start its entry burn and to, well, as we say, fight fire with fire so that it can get through the heat of re-entry and hopefully safely touch down on the drone ship after. We're seeing the trajectory there. First stage going down and the second stage going up, making its way into orbit.
Marty.
Hello, Max. How was that launch?
Oh, it was beautiful. I can still see stage 2 with the naked eye. D has a great track of it. Hopefully, we can show that here momentarily. But beautiful as always. That fog really added a lot to the scenery as it was leaving the pad. Hopefully, that came up on the cameras quite well. Hopefully, we can also check it out again in the replays. But Marvelous view tonight, and the cooler and crisp air definitely helped carry the sound a bit more than it normally does. It was quite nice.
It looked amazing from what I could see, and from what I could hear, it also sounded absolutely amazing. So we're still getting these views from SpaceX. As I said, in just a few minutes, well, just under a minute from now, the entry burn should be coming up for that first stage. So, Max, during liftoff, we saw this like ring of smoke, or cone, vapor cone. What was that?
Yeah, there was a bit of a vapor ring there as it was beginning to pass through transonic speeds at certain altitudes where the air in the atmosphere allow it. It was really, really, really pretty. I can't wait to see that in the replays.
Stage 1 FPS.
But speaking of atmospheric conditions and traveling through it, we should be coming up momentarily on atmospheric re-entry. Can see entry burn with our naked eye. How about that?
That's so cool. And there, that entry burn has started. Of course, our SpaceX feeds are just a bit behind our own views, and I believe this is a camera of our own. So
yes, indeedy.
Cool. It's so cool that we can see that all the way from the Cape. It looked like on our own views that entry burn had already stopped, I think.
Based on our views, I believe it went behind either some trees or a cloud. But as we can see from the live stream here, confirmation that shutdown has occurred. And look at all that plasma in the grid fins. Holy cow.
Wow. So that's Falcon 9 moving through the air so fast that it heats up the air, turning it into plasma as it interacts with these grid fins. And that is just a stunning effect.
That is something we normally see, but I can't recall seeing the grid fins light up like they had tonight. Look at that; it's beautiful. And just off to we just saw it there poke out that light, that little dot of light on the left hand side of your screen. That should be the drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, which will hopefully be meeting this booster in under a minute from now.
Yes, and landing burn to touchdown on that booster should start at around T plus 7 minutes and 59 seconds. So looking at the SpaceX countdown, that is in just 10 seconds from now. Of course, we're getting delayed views from the SpaceX stream. So that countdown is not quite matching up with the countdown we see in the top left of the screen. And that is that landing burn starting up. Falcon 9 now slowing down so it can softly touch down on a shortfall of Gravitas, which we see on the right. It's being lit up by its plume. And there's the drone ship also in view from the rocket. And that is touchdown. And Falcon 9 booster. I've got the booster number. Booster B1090. Completed its 9th flight and is now ready to be turned around for flight number 10. In the meantime, the second stage is continuing to orbit and just shut down its engine. Its first burn. It
Nominal orbit insertion.
will relight for a second burn at T plus 53 minutes and 53 seconds. To deploy these 29 Starlinks into their destination orbit. But for now, we're getting some views from the empty launch pad, which, as some of our team members would like to say, that is the best view on launch day.
Well, actually, it is DOS's favorite view, but for us, I think it's our second favorite, because our first favorite would be it leaving the pad initially under its own power. So I think Still a great view though, but this is certainly a great perspective from how much fog is currently in the air right now, and that we can really only see the very top of the lightning towers and probably the top third of the new crew access tower over there. It's like 40. But going back to the landing views that we had there, we haven't seen a completely uninterrupted feed from either of the drone ship in quite a while. And that one, there was no interruptions, there were no hiccups, there was no sudden pixelation. That was completely smooth, and that really helped to show just how rapidly Falcon 9 has to slow down in such a short period of time to make sure that that essentially it won't come down either crashing onto the deck or slow down too quickly. Because unlike New Glenn that we saw just last week, Falcon 9 really does not have the ability to hover when it's during landing, because one, it weighs too little, and two, the singular Merlin 1D engine in the center cannot throttle down low enough to support a hovering maneuver. So it has to perform what is sometimes called the suicide burn, or just I guess more often called it. Essentially, they light the engine at the very last moment possible. So, but here we are going right into replays here. I believe from Fleet Cam number 1 over at Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar in Port Canaveral.
Yeah. And I'm seeing a question coming in from Sherry. I was asking what drone ship. Just read the instruction, which is their favorite. Well, unfortunately I have to disappoint you, because this was a shortfall of Gravitas. But with views like these, it's a very good option to have two. So as we're looking at these replays, should also probably go to a $10 super chat from XD9, which came in a while ago ahead of liftoff. Always enjoy a chill late night stream before going to sleep. Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and what a launch to watch before going to sleep.
I like that. A
Yes.
very chill late night stream before we go off to bed. I like that.
Yeah. And with views like these, those will be some amazing dreams, I think.
Why would you hope so?
Yeah. All right. So we're working to get some more of these views and replays in. Do we have any other questions or things to talk about?
In the meantime, I think we can mention that this is one of our robot cameras stationed over here at the press site here at the Kennedy Space Center, located at the very top of, good grief, of what we call the hut. And as we can see here, there was a bit of a fog layer on the ground there at the very bottom of frame. This is KSC2 for those wondering. And because Falcon 9 burns so bright, it is literally quite like an artificial sunrise. And we will hopefully see that there we go. This is the BTS camera that D had set up behind us. Look at that. It is literally like a sunrise. It is so bright.
It looks
Hopefully,
amazing.
once it clears the frame here, it'll start to show the illumination of us in addition to the silhouette. But you can really see that layer of fog already just sitting above the tree line.
Yeah, those are just some spectacular views. And I don't know about you, but I always love watching the people too. Like, the launch is amazing, but it's also amazing to watch people react to the event itself. I'm seeing that Dr. Blah became a Patrat member, so thanks for that, and enjoy all the perks of the membership. And indeed, as Dee was saying, the light of the launch is lighting up the views we get in the replays. So it's kind of turning night into day.
Quite literally, yeah. There's just two of us going to work, tracking the rocket, make sure we have it in view. And I believe this is my camera that we are now going to see. Look at that. I noticed how it was for how much fog was on the ground. It was incredibly clear once it actually cleared the tower. It was marvelous in clarity. But we should have audio with this one as well coming up soon.
Remember, in that audio, we could also hear the VAB squeal. There's that smoke ring again, or ring of condensation, I suppose. It's so pretty.
It really is, and we don't see that every single time, because the atmospheric conditions have to be in place for that to happen. In terms of, I guess just a moisture level in the air at that altitude. But I guess we were graced with a rather nice one tonight.
The conditions were perfect, and apart from the fog on the ground, it looked absolutely amazing. Stunning. And it must have been even better in person, I think, Max.
I think you have to come see one in person yourself, Marty, and find out for yourself.
I will have to at some point. I've been looking at launches. I will. I've been looking at launches on my screen for years and years, but I've never actually seen one. So at some point, I will have to go out there and witness it for myself.
Indeed, you will.
Now in the replay, we can see the color of the plume change from yellow into blue and purple hues, and there is stage separation. Stage 1 shut down in the replay. All right. I'm just looking, do I have any more questions coming in?
Well, I think we're about here at the time where we can start to wrap things up. They should have the slow-mo replay has been delivered.
Amazing. So we'll get to see that on screen in a bit. So now as the slow-mo is coming up real soon, I've got to thank the people in the field. We just heard the voice of Dee Wise, who has been out there capturing the slow-mo footage and capturing the launch. Thank you, Dee.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. Any day with a launch is a good day. So I'll see you all for the next one.
And we've also had Max Evans in the field. Thanks for being there, Max, and thanks for your amazing views.
Pleasure as always, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to hang out with us on this very early Saturday morning. And Marty, and for you as well, being your very first hosting gig, I would say you did rather well. So hopefully we can have you back here soon enough for some more action.
Thanks, Max. That means a lot. The producer for the stream was Carson, who has been pulling the strings, pushing the levers to make sure that the stream and this launch got to you through YouTube. And I've been Marty for NSF. I don't have a sign-off yet, so everyone be awesome, and bye.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes! Payload down to nominal.
Flighting down to SC off. Bring in SC off. Off. It's orange!
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Decollage. What is it? Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?